30. Oh shit. I'm in a cult. Stories. According to Reddit. Number 30. There was a pregnant woman in our congregation who found out her baby hadn't developed lungs and was going to be stillborn. She was not allowed to get an abortion. A few of us stayed with her during the home birth, and we all watched the baby basically be born and then suffocate a few minutes later. I couldn't forget that. That woman, she was never the same, but the church shamed her for her depression because they viewed it as her rebelling against God's plan. I ran away not long after and found out just how fucked up my life actually was. And can it get worse for a first fucking entry? I don't think it can. So welcome to tonight's stream. And as usual, buckle the fuck up. Here's hoping you had a wonderful day and that things make sense. Here's hoping you had a wonderful day. You didn't hear that? Wow. A special thanks to Hannah, who is hosting my stream and somehow has 4 viewers. What the fuck? What is she doing with all those viewers? What is she doing? As we continue up this list, we arrive at number 29. I'm from Mexico. I was raised Catholic, doing my first communion, going to mass almost every Sunday. However, the first time I saw a very poor lady giving $300 pesos, which is about $15 US, and keep in mind this is a lot of money for poor people in Mexico, to the church just to see the preacher spend the money on luxury. I had been to that preacher's house and it was very luxurious. I was done with it, never trusting any sort of religion again, none of them. The way they mess, I'm guessing they mean, with people that honestly believe in them is not correct. And that's the truth. That's pretty much the danger with a lot of religions, is like, what you believe is what you believe, and you're not hurting anybody with those beliefs, and you are entitled to believe it, but you have to understand that religion as a construct in many forms is very corrupt. And because you're dealing with men who power corrupts absolutely, sometimes you don't know where that money is going. So, I think I was talking to Dia one day, and we had a conversation about how she gives money to homeless people, and that's acceptable. But, where I fall on the issue is that sometimes you should give that money to perhaps an organization or a shelter or something that can help those homeless people, because giving directly to those people feeds their negative habits, They could go spend it on drugs, they could go spend it on alcohol, they could do who knows what with that money that's not exactly helping their situation. And on the one side of the coin, you can think to yourself, oh, well, they're homeless, what do they have to live for? If they want to get a drink or some smokes to take the edge off, hey, let them go do it. But at the same time, you would be enabling them negatively impacting their own life, even if it is their choice. And the issue that she brought forward was essentially, she's giving this to help, what they choose to do thereafter is their own choice. And I understand that kind of mentality as it applies to religion. Like I would imagine that my mother, because she's Christian, when she goes to church and she gives her tithe or offering, she does that because she believes that that's what you should do. And what the church decides to do with that money is on them. Do you know what I mean? So in the same way, I guess that's how a lot of people look at this shit, which is messed up. But let's continue up this list to number 28. When my parents told me that they would let me die if I needed a blood transfusion. What? That is some cult-like shit right there. That is some cult shit. When I was never allowed to play with any worldly kids at school, when I was not allowed to celebrate my birthday or any other holiday, in 1998 I was told to throw away Final Fantasy VII because I would become demonized. In 1995, my mom threw away my entire comic book collection when my daughter was molested by another member of the cult, and I was not allowed to call the police. Wow. Wow, this is pretty intense. When I could not talk to my brother because he had sex before he was married. When I had oral sex for the first time in my life after being married for 15 years. The cult banned it even if you were married. Finding out I had a cousin who was 25, my uncle left 40 years ago, and we were not allowed to talk to them. I could think of even more. What cult was this? We're dying to know. I don't know. Jehovah's Witnesses. That's so sad when they live wishing that they could take those years back. That's pretty fucked up. Yeah, Soph in the stream chat says that Jehovah's Witnesses have that belief. Holy hell. Jesus says it was a cult classic, Kyle. He is proud of that one. Well, go ahead and scratch kitty diddling off the freaking bingo cards if that's what's on there, because 28 had it. Ugh. Number 27, the moment when I asked myself what fundamentally the difference between my church and North Korea was. My thoughts went something like this. We sing songs about allegiance to the Supreme Leader. We have pictures of the Supreme Leader in our house. We ascribe supernatural events to the Supreme Leader. The Supreme Leader can do no wrong. One day, we all invade false Korea, or Jesus will come and kill all of our enemies sometime soon. As of last century or last week, leaving church or best Korea, where will you go? Horrible things outside. People who leave best Korea are evil traitors. Take extra time out of your day to serve best Korea / the church. Anyway, I highly recommend this as a thought process as whether or not to be, as whether or not a part of a religion is bad. If substituting nouns, it sounds like something out of North Korea, or from a true external perspective, which is hard to do, it seems strange. It probably is. That's how I left. Incidentally, I've had run-ins with Mormons from time to time. I stole stuff I liked from them until I realized that I was basically building Baha'i again. So I'm mostly aligned with Baha'i now, but more heavily Zoroastrian, I suppose? Despise rituals, but that's my story. This is all gibberish to me, my man. This is all gibberish to me. But I guess all we can do is be thankful and appreciative that it has nothing to do with us. Because cult life is scary life, okay? Cult life is scary life. As we continue up the list, we arrive at number 26. I grew up in a church that was one compound and a bulk order of Kool-Aid away from being a cult. They mostly focused on the end times and how much better, or how much and when to tithe. For me, there were two. The first, when the preacher preached a sermon on how God doesn't care about how good or evil you are, only if you believed the correct things. So yeah, you could be a baby raping Hannibal, so long as you believe that the church and only the church believes you're going to heaven. The second was when he preached a sermon about babies, children, and yes, even the mentally disabled go to hell. Unless, of course, they believe the correct way. Of course, as he put it, most of them were in hell. The idea that God is all-knowing and all-loving and tortures babies and the mentally handicapped for eternity was abhorrent to me. Okay, man. My right eye is jumping without cease, and that can't be good. Wonder if I'm stressed. But about what? Woo boy. Looks like 25 and 24 have been deleted. Holy hell. I wonder if it was about Scientology. I wonder if it was about Scientology. What can we do? Right. Number 23. It would be great if this thread was tagged serious, really interesting topic. I think it did get tagged serious. Anyway, number 22. My mother and I had a conversation about how cute babies are, and she mentioned that the sweet, innocent, lovable nature of infants makes a mother forget the nearly lethal experience of the labor. She kissed my cheek and called me angel. I asked her why, then, I was born if my elder brother's birth was so terrifying and painful for her? What? Deuteronomy 5:16 roughly says that children who honor their father and mother as God says will be blessed, and the parents are therefore blessed by having a respectful child. In the cult, job descriptions and qualifications include scriptures. My father wanted a job, and one of the requirements was that his children respect him and fear the Lord. But he only had one child at the time. He was told he would not get the promotion until he had another child, and my mother was accosted several times, being told she was selfish, a hellish woman, worse than Eve, that her vagina was a hole to hell. That is not an exaggeration. It was a common insult in the cult, along with calling others uncircumcised and haughty, because people in the cult speak with marked peculiarity. She had several panic attacks and finally stuck off to find a psychiatrist and renew her use of anxiety medication that she was on before me father made her stop taking them. Boy. Once I was conceived, my father was promoted and they were transferred to what at the time was the USSR. My brother was left with, honestly, I don't know who, and my parents won't tell me. But they left for the remainder of her pregnancy. Against medical advice, they flew back to the US, and I was born in Illinois. For the next 5 years, we were left with strangers who were ranked highly enough in the cult to take care of the children of my father's ranking, until we were assigned secondary parents. Give about 13 years, and I had a secret and god-awful boyfriend who did not understand consent, but then again, neither did I. One day I walked home after a rough date, and upon going to the bathroom I found blood and realized it was nowhere near my period hole. I told my mother, and she said that is what happens with men, and went to her room. Oh my god. This is getting pretty spooky. The next Friday, I felt so disgusting that I wanted to purge myself, die to myself, and give my life to the cult, so I confessed everything about home impure I was to the female leaders. About how impure I was. One told me I know nothing of pain, and because of my father's ranking, I lie for attention. The other said that she would not trust me to hold her own child, which is a very insulting thing to tell any female who has menstruated, as it is your primary function in the cult to care for your own and other children. It is worse than telling someone that their very existence is inherently meaningless. Boy. The third said that my presence was detrimental to the souls of those around me. I am to leave and not return, and since I am a liar, of anyone fully in the cult asks me what happened to lie, or they will say I am a whore and a liar. I missed the next 3 periods until one day I was sitting in our living room in an expensive house in Southern California, paid for by the forced tithe of those who barely feed their own children, and I started to bleed a lot, and then the vomit, and then I could barely crawl. So I laid in the bathroom until it was over. I thought I was going to die, and I was happy about it. I woke up in the bathroom, cleaned up, went to school. My secondary sister snuck me pain medication from the medicine cabinet. Father is prone to migraines. I told my parents what happened Thursday. My mother started crying, but my father stopped her. She said that right after she had my brother, she conceived again, twins, but she lost them, bled them out like a curse. My father told her that she had killed the wrong child. And they left me to process it. This may be one of the most chilling things I've ever read. I didn't have any tears or anger, just short of sharp clarity that since hadn't left me. They later told me that they were proud of me because I didn't cry, but needed time to process the death of the wrong daughter. In case you want more reading, the International Church of Christ. What the fuck? Shit like this exists in the world. I'm scared. The International Church of Christ. I'm scared. Shit like this exists. Whoa, number 21. I was shunned for dating someone that wasn't white. They gave me Bible verses to support their claims that it wasn't right. The Bible says that God is love. If I can't love someone, then they're not reading the same book I am. I left. Half of my friends wouldn't speak to me anymore. It took me a while to forgive them, but I did. And you're the bigger person. Moses' wife was black. His sister gave him shit for marrying an Ethiopian woman. God hit her with leprosy temporarily to teach her to not give Moses crap about her wife. Man, God sounds like an ice cold motherfucker. You know, bam, hit you with the leprosy. Oh no, my arm fell off. That's fucked up, God. That's fucked up. God, that's fucked up, God. Number 20. I don't think I ever truly believed, but the moment that was cemented for me was when I had the unfortunate experience of going on a mission trip to Cambodia. Long story short, 2 teams from the church I had previously attended were sent. For the first 2 weeks, the teams were sent to different locations. During this time, we helped the local communities, and it was actually pretty nice. Normal prayer sessions. However, during the last couple of days of the trip, both teams met up and stayed in the same location. It was then that the stories from the other team about being possessed by the devil, spiritual enlightenment, tongues, becoming a vessel that God can speak through, and being struck down by the love of God were mentioned by the other team. Keep in mind that till that point, our team had just your good old regular fashion prayer sessions. Surprise, surprise, later that night, when both teams held a joint prayer session, members from my team started hysterically yelling, crying out for God, passing out on the ground, and it was at that moment that I realized that it was all bullshit, and pretty much mass hysteria mixed in with an enlightened dick measuring contest. Yeah. Christian dick measuring contest. Hey, look, everybody, it's Kayla in the stream chat. Get a load of that. Wow. As we travel up this list, we arrive at number 19. When I was at a yearly conference at a mega church in the state when I was 15 years old, there were fog machines and laser lights during worship, and the power mysteriously went out as we took communion, which was an obvious indication that God was in our favor, instead of just an overloaded circuit or someone pulling the plug. That's around the time I realized that you can trick anyone into believing anything, and I started doing some research. Officially denounced the church when I was 17 and had had enough. I have seen enough. I have seen enough. That being said, Mitch Runs leaves a comment and says, I lost a really close childhood friend to Scientology. She left Canada to go do that fort in the USA, or to go to that fort, and got pregnant with someone from the church almost immediately, married, and is completely engrossed in the lore. Well, that's what happens. That's what happens. Scientology's loaded, and that should scare you. Number 18. When I read a book about our sect that told its actual history, even though the leaders always said it was created in the time of Jesus and passed down over the millennia in the same form. Come on. That I'm told. Okay? That I'm told. Number 17. It was a Sunday. Sundays we'd always go during the day and afternoon. But after the first part, when my parents sat me down, they told me that we were leaving. I recall being sad because I was playing a game with my friends. At the time, I was confused. My friends that I grew up with ignored me like I didn't exist. I felt like everything I knew was gone. Later on, I slowly pieced together what went on there was not normal. I noticed the manipulative tactics, such as showing us graphic videos of people dying and being raped or ripped up because they didn't follow God. They told us that if we didn't ask the pastor for permission in relationships, we would end up being abused. They made us have no TV to isolate us, but there's more. But it was very difficult leaving. It felt like my entire life was a lie, and everything I had learned for 12 years was taken away, and I was left clueless as ever and couldn't relate to anyone. That's unfortunately the saddest, scariest, and strongest tactic of the church. Is that they prey upon people that have nothing else. So they can literally then threaten the people into doing certain things and saying, yo, you know, if you don't do this, then you won't have what we're giving you and you won't have people around you, you know, you'll be alone. Some people can't handle being alone. Some people can't handle not feeling like they belong. And it's so rude. Number 16 says, when my church built a 1.5 billion shopping mall using its investment money. Nice. A shopping mall. Somebody said, gotta make a profit somehow. Get it? A profit? Oh, shit. Wow.
Heard a radio commercial for Scientology today on my drive home.
Wow, Amy, that's kind of scary. We thank you, Amy, for that 3 didgeridoos. But that's kind of scary. And I think you know it. I think you know it, a Scientology commercial. Like, oh my God. Oh boy. Number 15. Ugh, scary. One of my best friends today was raised into a freaky Afro-Islamic cult. He and his mom left when his dad was sent on a mission to Sudan. As it turned out, he was sent to fight in a civil war on behalf of the local tribe/cult. They never heard from him ever again. They assume he was killed in action. He described his childhood as animal sacrifices, usually goats, every Friday, and he was forced to eat the heart raw and drink the blood, else he would be beaten. The cult owned a house turned apartment building in Detroit, where he lived, and said that his mother was never permitted to leave the building. He described how female genital mutilation was mandatory for all girls, which is especially fucked up. It's crazy to think that these kinds of things were happening in the US. When he was 8, he and his mother managed to escape the cult by stealing thousands of dollars in cash and fled in the middle of the night, paid a truck driver to smuggle them into Canada. They stayed in a country illegally for a month, slowly making their way from Ontario to British Columbia, where they smuggled themselves back across the border into Washington. There they got the support from a mosque who set his mom up with a place to live and a job at a restaurant, and helped get my friend back into school and back into society. For years they were paranoid as fuck because they thought that the cult was going to hunt them down and kill them, but being dressed head to toe in a burqa has its advantages, I guess. Jeez, you living in hiding. Is that life? She was able to hustle at the job through financial support from the mosque, and he was able to attend college where we met. He's working at a bank now and doing really well for himself. He's getting married soon, and he's fully supporting his mother as well. Holy shit. Holy shit. Some tells me this is going to get even worse as we continue up the list of 30. Oh shit. I'm in a cult. Stories. Halfway through, we're now at number 14. I had a very intelligent friend. She also grew up in this cult. I remember her telling me one day how much she was struggling in science class because evolution made sense to her, but she knew it conflicted with her faith. She was in tears over it, saying that she needed to block it out. Yeah, that shit sucks. Somebody says you can still have your faith and believe in evolution. It frustrates me that these two beliefs are so often pitted against each other. It's not about pitting against each other. They are in direct contradiction of one another. Motherfucker. Dia says, hello, Kyle. Hello, Dia. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. I hope you are all having a great evening. Thank you for being here. You know, I appreciate you all. Number 13. Not quite a cult, but the pastor started talking about how God was sending Hurricane Katrina and all these mass shootings as punishment for legalizing gay marriage and not praying in schools. That was it for me. That's a lot of pastors. A lot of pastors just jump up and say any kind of bullshit because they used to get away with anything anyway. You know? They are used to getting away with anything anyway. Somebody said, don't forget abortion. I grew up in a not quite cult, but close. And they love to say God had turned his back on America because of homosexuality and abortion. Really? Number 12. Oh, no. I am the daughter of a pastor. My big realization moment was when I was about 11. And my mother didn't let me wear a pretty dress to the Christmas service because red and black will make men look at you in a bad way. I was like, what the fuck, Mom? These people go to your church and you think that you're creeps. I didn't actually say anything until I was 17 on a family vacation, and my mother told me not to wear my bikini, that I had snuck along because my dad and brothers were there. I asked her why. Did she think that they would rape me? I got banned from the pool that day. I refused to leave my room for the rest of the trip, except for meals. That was the last time that they had any kind of control over me. Holy hell. This girl got straight stories. Stories for days on that ass. She got a story too. Wait a minute. She just kept posting more stories. Well, she goes on to say, we moved around a lot for my parents' missionary work. So me and my year older brother were homeschooled and didn't have any friends. So we would play together, and that usually involved a stuffed animal edition of Star Wars or a Littlest Pet Shop. Cityscape getting ransacked by an earthquake, all recorded on home video, directed by yours truly. My parents decided that my brother playing with girl toys would turn him, gasp, gay, and would drag him off to Christian counseling once a week. We never stopped playing with the toys, and he never turned out to be gay anyway. Your parents seem very intense, says someone. She goes on to say my mom was pretty passive when we stood up to her, and I knew my dad would never actually hurt me because they had this perfect little Christian family thing going on, and I don't think they wanted to ruin that. What a quaint little white girl fucking family you living in. Forgive me, I didn't mean to downvote that. I was just trying to highlight it, and I ended in the wrong place. The bottom line is, if y'all know anything about Hispanic ladies or black ladies or Caribbean ladies, or maybe even Catholic women, you know that they have no problem directly contradicting some of the shit that they're hurling at you as far as what you need to believe and the way in which you need to conduct yourself. You know what I mean? But they live in contradiction, and it's a you do as I say and not as I do type of life. Whoa. They don't give a shit about image. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit about image. Shit. Number 11, though. When I was 19, and by order of the pastor, my mom took my bedroom door off of the hinges. They were doing everything in their power for me to leave the church. She would do random searches and pat downs to see if I had any communications to the outside world. There were so many signs that I started seeing when I got older. I was raised into the religion, but I was terrified to leave due to the shunning, the fear of being ashamed of leaving the truth. Also, my mom didn't want me to go to a therapist even after knowing that I was having panic attacks because she was afraid that the therapist would take the fear of God out of my life. What a brilliant question. Let me ask a question on Reddit. Woo! What a cute little question. Here's hoping it gets some traction. Let's continue. Number 10. When I realized that I had this deep feeling that nobody would ever love me if I left the religion because the religion fucked me up in a lot of ways. That's how they get you, dude. That's how they get you, because the religion is just like an abusive relationship, where you are tricked into this corner of thinking no one's going to love you. It's way too late to start over. You have nothing to offer. Everybody else is 1,000 times what you are. And you know what I mean? They're just breaking you. They're breaking you. And that's all that it is. And you exist as a resource to them. And until people wake the fuck up to that, hey, man. Also feeling like nobody would ever love me if I stayed because deep down I didn't believe. Wow. Someone says 15 years old in a Mormon family. I am very scared to tell them that I don't believe for this reason. However, Mormonism here in Utah is kind of crazy. Some consider it cult-worthy. While I wouldn't take it that far, it's definitely not something I want to be part of. There's a reason people call them Utah Mormons. Girl, I hope you can, get on Twitch and be free from that life. Number 9. My brother and I grew up in a cult family, not specifically naming anything, but has since disbanded to my knowledge. Though some of y'all might know which town this happened in. Picture this, a rural town in the middle of nowhere, only a handful of people. It was made very clear that outsiders weren't welcome, and we obviously didn't get many guests. The ones that stumbled upon it were lost. The town looked creepy as shit, so they cleared out fast. Contact to the rest of the world was non-existent, and we didn't have access to anything. No news, TV, etc. There are some of the worst things, or here are some of the worst things that are burned into my memory. Live animal sacrifices were common. On special occasion, leaders cut them open, and followers were required to eat a piece of the heart. One time I threw up after the ceremony and was beaten. What are you a part of? Eating a piece of an animal heart. You know what I'm talking about? We're seeing this a lot. We are seeing this a lot. People got sick frequently but weren't permitted to seek medical attention outside of the cult, but the doctors in the cult were absolute quacks. Education was handled by leaders and whoever they appointed. My older brother really liked dragonflies and other insects. Our dad would capture them and force him to pluck the wings off as sacrifice. Okay. It was typical for the members to be having sex with each other, consensual or not. Leaders and their favorites were allowed to rape. My brother and I knew our real parents, but we were taught to treat every adult as a parent. They turned a blind eye to the molestation of children. They would marry us teen kids off informally to people within the cult. And when I say informally, I mean there was no government or legal work to back it up. We were just told that we would be marrying this person and didn't have a choice. I had a romantic and semi-sexual relationship with a teenage boy in the cult. I was slightly younger than him at the time. I became overly paranoid because it was against our religion to be engaging in same-sex relations. For a long time, I thought I was going to die since he disappeared one day with no warning. I still have no idea what happened, if he got out by ditching in the middle of the night like I did, or if he was killed. Oh my God. I don't know what happened to my parents, but they're probably dead. I haven't seen my brother since that day. I have no way of contacting him if he's alive. What is this? What is this? What are you talking about? What is this? I did enlist in the army, and the recruiter who got me in, the friend previously mentioned, worked his ass off with helping me get legal documentation. I gave him all the personal information I knew. We reached out to hospitals and the state and eventually got a document with my last name and my parents popped up. I was fortunate enough to be in the state that only needed a statement that said you were the person in order to get a birth certificate. The recruiter also helped me obtain a student ID so I could get the other documentation I needed, a social security card, etc. Note, it wasn't an immediate transition from cult to military, though I understand why some of you might have thought that. What happened after you ran away? Where did you go? Was the outside world what you expected? I didn't look back. The night that I left, I kept going until I found a paved road. Was picked up by a young man, and I can still picture his pickup clear as day. I told him I ran away from home, but nothing else. And he didn't pry, so we just kept driving. He made small talk, I mostly listened, but eventually I confessed that I didn't have any plan or a place to go. He suggested the military, since he had a friend in it who could help me, plus that'd get me on my feet. I enlisted. It was like being 5 again for many years afterward. I had to relearn a lot because what I had been told in my childhood was centered around the cult's beliefs, and my education was severely lacking for my age. I was considered an 18-year-old in 5th grade. My time was spent drifting between homes, jobs, and friends, never stayed in one spot for too long. I didn't feel connected to any identity since it was like I had papers to say who I was. It wasn't like I had papers to say who I was. To avoid questions and make myself feel better, I created a story about my childhood, how my family all died in a car crash when I was little, and I said I didn't like talking about them, so people didn't ask. I had a job as a mover for a while, and that's where I met my long-term boyfriend. Currently, I live with him and just try to take things one day at a time. Sorry, I wish I could answer this better. Holy shit. Holy shit. I can only continue. Number 8. The pastors got involved in the prepping movement. Suddenly there was this huge focus on the end times. One day, One day that she starts tearing into me about not stockpiling more food. The pastors had joined MLM scam for dried food. Most of the members were dirt poor, but suddenly God wants us all to buy expensive prepper stuff. Okay. Man. When these get deleted, it's almost like scary because they're horrified of almost like being found. And the fact that this shit exists, in America. Not that this place is the safest place in the world or something, but geez. Number 6, around the age of 5, after being Around age 5, after being molested and hiding in shame because of fear of being shunned, I was gifted a diary around that age, and I wrote about how I wished I was never born and how I just wanted to die. My mother obviously read the diary and burned it, and I was punished and explained what a gift from God life is, and it should always be appreciated. That's my first real memory of wanting to die to escape. I guess the moment it really hit me, though, that I wasn't being raised normally was when in first grade, when an extremely kind lady came in and explained different types of abuse, that I realized that I was and had been experiencing all of it. At the end, she asked if anyone had a question, that she would privately talk to them outside of the classroom, so to raise our hands. I gained the courage to raise my hand, but another girl was called on first. I sat there thinking of how bad I would be punished if the lady told my parents what I told her. What if she didn't believe me? I made myself sick, and when she came back in, I had lost the ability to raise my hand again, so I guess that's when I realized my situation. Who knows what would have happened if I got called on first? I regret not telling that lady all the time. Wow. Pretty intense. Number 5. I know a guy born into a fundamentalist Mormon sect on the Montana-Idaho border. His oh shit moment was on his 18th birthday when his dad and other men kicked him out of town and told him never to come back. But they keep the girls and marry them off to the other men in town. But boys gotta go so they don't take the precious girls. Polygamy is hard when the birth ratio stubbornly remains at 50-50. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is like some cringeworthy shit, man. And cringy in the bad way. As we put a bow on this list, reading the remaining 4, there really wasn't a concrete oh shit moment, but the first time I remember thinking this is bullshit was how often people would be sentenced to hell for the most trivial reasons. Everything from an impure thought to cursing to sleeping in late. So one day I was discussing future marriage with my mother, as all 11-year-olds in the sect do. And the topic of what I would do if my husband potentially abused me came up, having witnessed frequent mistreatment and power play relationships at that point. Me. Then divorce is okay, right? Her. No, divorce is never okay. Me. But what about if he beat me really bad and I was hurt with bruises? It's still not okay. Well, then what do? You pray for him and ask the Lord to help him see the error of his ways. The Lord can always work. and it's blasphemy to try to interfere with his plans by divorcing. Bullshit. "11 years old. 11 years old. Number 3. My aunt, uncle, and their kids of around 5, and their around 5 kids were in a cult in the 80s and 90s. They were faith healers, and the leader basically preached that if you got sick, it's because you didn't love God enough. Their oh shit moment was when the cult leader died of gangrene. Oh. They immediately found their own church after the cult disbanded, so they definitely still have some weird beliefs. Some people just need some shit. Gang fucking green, you know? What year is this? What year is this? Oh, man. Number 2, I was raised in the family radio apocalyptic Christian cult. I guess the biggest oh shit moment was when the world didn't end on May 21st, 2011. My whole life was building up to that day, and I had no other purpose. And then May 22nd came, and I figured out how to live in a world that I was taught to reject. Welcome to the real world. Choose your own adventure." Oh my God. Naturally, I want to thank my sponsors, and I want to thank my patrons, but most importantly, I want to thank all of you who are here on Twitch, which is where I stream now because YouTube is not a thing anymore. So to any of you watching this on YouTube, I stream at the same time, 9:30 p.m. EST, and you should roll by the Twitch and check it out. You can do it on the computer, you can do it on the phone. It's just the same. What's stopping you? Are you not downloading the Twitch app? That's pretty messed up, man. I understand if it's too hard for you. If it's too hard. A lot of things are too hard for you, huh? It's okay, buddy. I'm here for you. As we finish this list of 30 oh shit I'm in a cult stories. Number 1 reads, "When my mom said a relative had educated himself right out, I realized that something you can educate yourself out of might not be the source of all truth and enlightenment after all." Someone said this is a big thing for Jehovah's Witnesses. They're encouraged not to engage in higher education because it destroys faith. Perhaps if learning to reason and understand science destroys your faith, maybe that faith is not well founded. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses got to shut themselves off to the world around them. And that if that doesn't show you something, then, you're an idiot. You're a fool, Jehovah's Witnesses is one of the biggest fucking cults out there. And the fact that they actively shut themselves off to things around them because they know they can't contradict it. They know that they can't counterpoint. They know that they can't hit facts with their make-believe bullshit. So they do the equivalent of a child sticking their fingers in their ears and going, la, 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 I can hear you. What the fuck? That's your religion? Shut everything out? Yo, good luck. Good luck. Oh my God. It's going to be an incredible summer. I love it. They have the tan lines over there. That's great. That is great. June 15th. Interesting. That'll be fun. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. No way. Interesting. Marvel movies, bro. Marvel movies. Got all these dumbass dog shits on the front page. Oh, boys. Boys. So, that's the end of that. I'm going to end the YouTube one. And again, YouTubers, remember, you need to come check me out on Twitch.